on Q2, more accusations against a Billings property management company.
From dirty water to now evictions, we take you back to Haven Park.
I'm a good person, I'm a hard worker, I'm a disabled veteran, 100%. And I'm getting removed. I'm going home.
Plus, first voices.
If the elders are dying, the stories are dying. Whereas what are the young people holding on to?
Students look to keep the stories of their past alive. I'll show you how.
And surviving a health scare.
He's my hero. He's awesome.
A 75-year-old woman has a second chance, all thanks to a new doctor and new technology at St. V's.
The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for starting your week with us. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Andrea Lutz. Billings city crews still tied up this evening with issues related to all that record rainfall that fell in just a matter of 48 hours.
Well, some parts seeing over 5 inches of rain. This is what it looked like just a day ago. We could hardly believe it when this roundabout at Shiloh completely flooded.
The rain fell. It didn't stop falling, leaving rushing waters in areas of Billings, flooded basements, and too much water for drains to actually handle. The city was inundated with calls, so much so they started asking residents to refrain from calling 911 unless it was an emergency.
Then restoration companies became flooded themselves, but with calls for service, clearing hundreds of gallons of water from basements and fielding hundreds of calls for help.
Well, those who work in the business of removing water say this was by far the worst flooding they've seen, and it is a cruel reminder of what happened last year to those residents in Red Lodge.
And we're not quite out of the woods yet, as more rain is expected this week.
With the latest on what we can expect, here's Keith Meyer.
Yeah, Andrea, we still do have some flood issues in northeastern Montana up near Glasgow, Milk River, and some areas around there, down near Jordan and Garfield County. And then also a flood watch down here along the Musselshell, running very full all the way from Harleton through Lavina. So if you're living along the Musselshell, you'll want to keep an eye on that. We do have some more moisture in the forecast the next few days. This is estimates of precipitation through Tuesday. You can see most of that confined to the Billings to the west, and generally a ½ inch or less. So nothing really substantial out there. As we work our way into Wednesday, there is some suggestion of a higher pocket of moisture out there, maybe a ½ inch to an inch west of the Billings area. And then as we get into Thursday, Friday, that's really the part that you need to pay attention to, is this axis of heavier rain potential all the way from south central Montana, Lame Deer area up through Lewistown and up towards Cut Bank there. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we may have some particularly heavy showers around the area. We'll have the details of the forecast later in the show.
With many looking to recover in Billings, this month also marks the 1-year anniversary of that historic flooding of the Yellowstone River. Take a look at all of that. The act of Mother Nature that destroyed homes, livelihoods, and for some time the spirit of those impacted. But for one man in Livingston, it was keeping a positive mindset that got him through such a hard start. MTN's Jane McDonald returns to the scene of a river rescue to check in on this family.
You know, this is obviously our road now, but about this time last year, this was the escape route on the jet boat. Imagine, you know, water rushing across this, you know, waist high or so as it's coming downstream and flowing past the neighbor's house, and it just keeps rising.
After getting his kids on the raft and to safety, it was Jason's turn, and that's when he took this video.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that those guys were having a hard time even getting their jet boat down here. The water was moving so fast downstream.
And that's where we first met the Mascaris, out on Highway 89, moments after their family and 2 dogs were rafted out of their home. And today we retraced the steps leading up to that evacuation.
Beginning of the day, we were bringing in some more sandbags, realizing how serious it was, and I actually was walking out and waiting with a stick trying to find where the holes were, and I fell to a spot right up ahead here that was almost up to my neck.
Their home, with a postcard view of the river, is set with a flood wall, and the family has dealt with serious flooding in the past, but Jason says that this was unlike anything he's ever seen. Everything on the first floor of the house ruined. But it could have been a lot worse.
My neighbor's home, which is unfortunately no longer here due to the flood that was so significant to them. They had to tear down their house, which is pretty heartbreaking. Oh gosh, I mean, that could have been us, right? I mean, anybody here on this whole stretch, there's so many people that were affected.
The Mascaris only moved back into their house in May, but despite all of the hurdles, it's a positive mindset that Jason says made a difference.
And people were always, aren't you scared about the river? I go, no, I've lived here 20 years. I know it's going to be fine. You know, to have that positive mindset really kind of helped my whole family get through it too. You know, the river's rising, but we're going to be okay.
In Livingston, Jane McDonald, MTN News.
The governor's veto of a bipartisan bill concerning rights of mobile home park residents shocked supporters on both sides of the aisle. Now residents of mobile home parks across Montana are facing evictions and feeling like there's no one to turn to for help. MTN's Jackie Coffin takes us to the Cherry Creek community in Billings for more.
It's moving day for Shelley Cooper, though not by choice. Cooper moved her mobile home to this park 14 years ago. Friday, she got a notice giving her 72 hours to leave.
You have 3 days to get out and all your personal belongings and vacating the premises.
Cooper, a disabled vet, says she fell on hard times and got behind on 2 months' rent, but had squared up her bill with her property management company before the eviction came.
You're making me leave my trailer, my home, of 23 years.
Cooper's community of Cherry Creek is one of 7 mobile home parks owned across Montana by the Utah-based Haven Park, 3 of which are in Billings. MTN has covered issues about water quality and rate increases in their other Billings parks before. Cindy Newman, who lives in a Haven Park-owned community in Great Falls, has been a vocal supporter of mobile home park residents' rights, working with lawmakers in the last 2 legislative sessions.
As manufactured housing is the largest source of non-subsidized housing available. And once they buy these parks and all the rules are on their side, they can quickly seize your home. This is not the first time that I've seen this happen.
The only bill centering on mobile home park reform to pass through the legislature and make it to the governor's desk was HB 889, which would have given tenants expanded protections in eviction proceedings, a 1-year lease, and protection from retaliation.
I thought it was a done deal.
The governor vetoed the bill, stating it, quote, unduly increases regulations of mobile home parks and in general compromises the property rights of mobile home park owners, end quote.
I'm a good person, I'm a hard worker, I'm a disabled veteran, 100%. And I'm getting removed from my home. So.
In Billings, Jackie Coffin, MTN News.
Young Montana children can now receive a free book every month. It's all thanks to Dolly Parton's Imagination Library and a State of Montana partnership. The announcement was made by Montana's First Lady, Susan Gianforte, and the multi-award winning singer-songwriter herself. Any child ages 0 to 5 can be registered by their guardian at imaginationlibrary.com. The program is available in every zip code in all 56 counties.
I want to send special thanks to First Lady Susan Gianforte for taking on the Imagination Library as her mission for children across Montana. And I also want to thank Governor Greg Gianforte, the Treasure State Foundation, and all the local donors who are coming together to help fund Montana's statewide program. And we couldn't do any of this without our local program.
And Pardon launched that original program in 1995 through the Dollywood Foundation.
A project that keeps the ancestral stories passed down through Native American tribes alive and gives young people a chance to express themselves through digital performance filmmaking will expand to the Crow Reservation next fall. I had a chance to learn more about First Voices in tonight's Positively Montana.
Positively Montana is sponsored by Yellowstone Valley Electric Cooperative.
Among the low fog, Mother Earth Spirit.
Henry Reelbird is one of the elders of the Crow tribe, a well-known poet and storyteller.
Like that, some of the stories that I was talking about were told by a blind gentleman on the reservation back in the 60s. And so I was fortunate to be able to hear his stories.
And so First Voices actually is a project we started right in the middle of COVID.
Preeti Vasudevan is founder of First Voices.
If the elders are dying, the stories are dying. Where's the what are the young people holding on to?
That was the impetus for forming First Voices, to keep the stories passed on through oral traditions to tribal elders and knowledge keepers alive in their first language.
It's harder to find than you can imagine. Many of them are second language speakers, very few who are first language speakers.
But the students do much more than just record interviews. They then bring the stories alive through performance art.
So to me, it was a good way to have the outlet with our art. So yeah.
They get this deep dive with all these professional teaching artists into different artistic disciplines, and they get to find their way to tell the story. You know, we don't come to them and say, here's what you're going to tell. And then also, the finished stories become an educational resource.
But to be able to tell the stories and the rhythms that are in the stories, and to be able to pass them on like old times.
Those involved with the project say it serves a number of purposes. One, of course, is keeping these tribal stories from the past alive. Another is the experience the students involved gain for their own futures.
So it builds leadership, team building, confidence, it heals trauma, and also helps build skill sets like, I can make a film, I can now record, I can be an artist.
First Voices works with students at reservation high schools and tribal colleges. The project is expanding to 5 reservations in Montana, including the Crow Reservation next school year.
Still to come on the MTN 530 News on Q2, a Montana woman with a terrifying health diagnosis lives to tell about it, all because of new technology at St. Vincent Healthcare. We'll share her amazing story next.
And coming up in just a bit.
I'm Alina Howder. More and more people in Billings are using services like IV drips or compression sleeves to try and stay healthy. We'll tell you more coming up.